Hari Om.
Good evening, Hari Om. Day 17, and our journey continues, our path of knowledge. And let us begin today's lovely session with prayers.
Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastuma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Hari Rajshree. The gross, the subtle, the causal body, the pancha koshas, everything inert. Then how is it enliving? What is that which enlivens everything? Let us find out more and understand it in its detail.
The essential nature of man is absolute knowledge. So, when intellect fails to apprehend a thing, the mind refuses to accept its non-apprehension and instead starts misrepresenting and creating a false unreal projection upon the object. This is illustrated in the analogy of the post and ghost, Sthanu Purusha. We saw this very nicely yesterday. We had taken up another example also of the rope and snake, that how a rope can be mistaken of a snake, and although in reality it is a rope, when the mind has projected or given the knowledge, the false knowledge that it is a snake, how we react. So when the light is being shined upon the real object, that means when knowledge dawns that what we saw is actually the rope and not the snake, and that time we are relieved and we know what the truth is. There is a small diagram which we are seeing over there, which is very actually clear. It is showing Om over there as pure consciousness, which is in brackets the post, which we are not seeing because in the dim light where our knowledge is less and we have still got ignorance with us. And we see, as we have in the diagram, that CB, the causal body, is the non-apprehension of post. Earlier also we have seen that bliss sheath is the Karana Sharira, or is that place of ignorance, which is of vasanas. So over here there is complete ignorance. So there is complete non-apprehension of what the reality is. And below that, we have seen the subtle body and the gross body is the world of ego, which is inert. That this is the bodies which gives us the false projection, where it refuses to accept that I don't understand what the reality is. So when you don't understand something, your mind refuses to accept it, and then without understanding projects something which is false. And lowermost you have seen that my world of plurality. That means all the objects, the outside things that you are seeing, always the objects are there for your senses. Let us start reading further. In the analogy, a man mistakes a post for a ghost. The non-apprehension of the post is the root cause of the misapprehension that it is a ghost. This illusion of the ghost can never be removed except by gaining the knowledge or apprehension of the post. Similarly, by the non-apprehension of the reality, avidya, the intellect is veiled, avarana, and the mind is agitated, vikshepa. Like I mentioned earlier, slowly you will come to know more and more terms that are related in our scriptures, which are of course in Sanskrit, and you will get familiar with all of them. So what we have just read is that non-apprehension of what is the truth of reality about ourselves. This is called as avidya, opposite of vidya, which is avidya. The intellect is veiled, avar. We have seen the incrustation or the coverings that we have on top, which is the veiling. This veiling is called avarana. And the mind which is agitated, which really moves around always so quickly. Sometimes the attention is there, not there. This agitated mind is known as the vikshepa. Consequently, the mind projects misapprehensions on the reality and identifying itself with them gives rise to the world of plurality. When the mind does not see what is the truth, then the rope has now been projected as a snake. So it has by itself created something which is non-existent. So this is what the mind does. When our senses go outside without realizing what the truth is, we keep creating and this creation keeps multiplying, which is in the realm of ignorance. So this is in the realm of complete avidya and which is veiled avaran and the mind which is vikshepa. This phenomena of projection and identification of the mind is called superimposition. With the dawn of knowledge, avidya or ignorance is removed and the concept of the pluralistic world vanishes, leaving the supreme reality. In our day-to-day experiences, we find that as the subject gets subtler and subtler, language becomes less and less effective in conveying our idea. For example, the objects seen can be vividly described, but the emotions felt are more difficult to express, while intellectual ideas and ideals become at times almost impossible to convey. We understand this very clearly. If I'm asked to describe an object, oh, this is a beautiful flower pot, I like it. Ah, it's blue in color, it is made up of glass, it has this much height. We can describe the object very clearly and very nicely. But when I have to express, oh, I like it so much, what does that mean? How much do I like it? Can I measure that? How much is the liking towards it? So it becomes difficult for me to express my liking. Then I will have to resort it. Oh, I like it as much as I liked something else. Then it has to become a comparison and so on and so forth. So words become more and more difficult to describe when it becomes subtle. While the object was a matter, a heavy, gross material, easier to describe. But my feeling towards it, the emotion, is a little harder to describe. While what becomes more and more subtle is my idea. I have thought about something, to describe a thought becomes even more difficult. And then imagine how difficult it is to describe what is the subtlest. And we have seen what is the subtlest. The subtlest is that consciousness. One consciousness given so many names. We will call it Om. We will call it ΑΤΜΑN. We will call it, there are many other words you will come across as you read ahead. And let us do that. The world represented by the BMI, PFT and OET is the terrestrial realm or the realm of samsara. Everything which is grossified, which is around us, is in the realm of samsara. Above the realm of samsara, that is, transcending the limitations of the BMI, PFT and OET is Om, the transcendental reality.
The diagram has been sent to them.
Most of you have also have the diagram, but we have also learned that the reality, the transcendental reality, is what we call or represented as Om, Tattva. And the other body sheaths and all that are not directly connected to it. And this forms the BMI, body, mind and intellect. The PFT is the perceiver, feeler and thinker. And the OET is the object, the emotion and the thought. This we have seen clearly earlier. So let us continue. Language is useful only to express the ideas pertaining to the terrestrial realm, but when employed to express the transcendental, it proves a failure unless it is manipulated and scaffolded with words having deep suggestive import. Hence, we find that scriptural language is cryptic and not easy to understand. We require preceptors to interpret and explain the scriptures. If I suddenly start listening to, forget saying them or remembering them, but even just listening to shlokas, mantras, everything which is there in our Vedas, I would not understand it even if I knew Sanskrit very well. In order to understand what they mean and in their correct meaning, in their correct perspective, a guru is required, a teacher or a preceptor is a must. Who explains. Otherwise, everybody can take a book, even a Sanskrit scholar can start reading, but does not mean that he will understand what the Shastra or the scriptures are trying to explain.
He will certainly understand the word meaning because he knows a little bit of Sanskrit. Little bit of Sanskrit, you know, you read, you will understand the word meaning. What it really means,
you have to learn it under a guru.
Please.
Sanskrit is a language which has gone through purification and preparation and has been successfully employed by the great rishis to indicate as best as possible the inexpressible. Inexpressible. How do you describe God? That tattva, that realm, which is nameless, which is formless, which is timeless, how do you describe something like that? In the world of objects, we have always seen that everything, you think of literally anything, and that has a form, a name, or it is connected to time. It is always like that. So how to describe something? But fortunately for us, the rishis of the yore, who were great preceptors and had such purity of mind and such clarity of thought, were able to interpret the knowledge which came to us from the God or from that consciousness and translate it for us to understand. They wrote it in cryptic, which was the mantras or the messages which were there. And then the gurus, the people of the highest intellect, who could interpret it to us in such a manner for us to be able to understand.
At this point, I would like to explain the word Sanskrit.
Please.
Sanskrita, sama, well, krita, done. That which has been done well means which is very, very sophisticated, which is already very fine-tuned.
Fine.
From Samskrita comes the word Samskriti, culture. So when Sanskrit, when we Indians, Hindus speak of culture, means that which is fine-tuned, which is virtuous.
Which
Sanskrit
was so refined. The knowledge, and not only the knowledge, the compilation and the language which was used for this compilation, Sanskrit, created by a great saints, which you must have heard of Patanjali Rishi. So the grammarian, it is such a perfect language that today also it is said that it can be used. I'm sorry, I do not have that knowledge of the computers and the programming, but apparently it is so perfect that you can make programs and use it for computers today. This is what has been told to us and I have heard of it. So this particular language, Sanskrit, was so pure and so refined. And the Samskriti, as Jagdish just told you, our country, the culture was at the peak, highest. And today's world, it is so unfortunate that we are called the third world country. Imagine what trauma, what degradation of our culture has happened due to the slavery of 1,000 years and the complete force behind trying to destroy this magnificent culture. And yet it has remained and saved. And unlike other great cultures of history, which we have seen, or civilizations of history, like the Roman, Greek and all that, who are not longer existing, but the Indian culture has managed to remain as intact as possible due to the grace of our gurus. And that is why, once again, I repeat, as a personal appeal, that pay more attention to it. Be careful about it, preserve it, take it forward. And this refined culture, let us see how it continues. Philosophy in India has sprung from the spiritual experiences of the ancient sages. It is not the result of mere intellectual speculation. Since it aims at the knowledge of the transcendental reality, it is termed darshana or vision of truth in Sanskrit. Every Indian school of philosophy holds in its own way that there is a direct realization of truth. A man of realization enjoys total liberation from the strains, stresses, and limitation of the terrestrial realm. One who fails to attain realization is entangled in them and is lost. So this vision of truth or this knowledge, transcendental knowledge, is also called as Darshan Shastra. Vedanta stands out as the clearest and most significant native philosophy of India. It answers at once strict demands of metaphysics and the deep requirements of a sound religion. However, the system of Vedanta derives its doctrine from the Prasthana which comprises the three textbooks, namely the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Brahma Sutras. Vedanta is the clearest and the most comprehensive summary ever made of the perennial philosophy. Hence, its enduring value is meant not only for Indians, but also for all the mankind. Let us slow down and let's once again understand what all of this means. First of all, now it is clear that in our scriptures and the Vedas, which are the essential book of knowledges of Hindus or the Sanatan culture, there are many Hindu philosophies, there are many philosophies. But all of these philosophies, among which Vedanta is one, and Vedanta is supposed to be the clearest or easiest to understand, clearest among them, all lead to one final goal.
One goal.
The goal is one. And this Vedanta philosophy, it derives its doctrine. Doctrine means a set of beliefs from what is called the Prasthana Trayi. Trayi means three, which comprises the three textbooks, namely the Upanishads. That is the end of Vedanta. If you remember, we had described how Vedas are also divided into sections, and the last or the end sections is first was the mantras, then the Brahmanas, and then the Aranyakas or the Upanishads. The Upanishads are the end which describe the philosophy. So one of these Prasthanatrayi is the Upanishads. The Bhagavad Gita, which we all know, has been recited, or that song or that poetry which has been said by Lord Krishna himself. And the Brahma Sutras. Just for knowing right now, you know that it is also known as Brahma Sutras, a book which is there. And these three are responsible for the doctrine of Vedanta. Vedanta is the clearest and most comprehensive summary made of this philosophy. The quintessence of the Vedanta philosophy is found in the great declarations, Mahavakyas of the four Vedas. We know this, that there are four Vedas. The Rig,
Yajus,
the Sam, and Atharva. Each of these Vedas has one Mahavakya. What is Mahavakya? Let's find out. These four Vedas, which have the Mahavakyas, they are ranged in the following ascending order. The first, Prajnanam Brahma. Consciousness is Brahman. 2, Tattvam Asi. That thou art. 3, Ayam Atma Brahma. This self is Brahman. And fourth, Aham Brahma Asmi. I am Brahman.
Om Sadgurunath Maharaj Ki Jai. These four Mahavakyas, we cannot comprehend the magnitude, the knowledge that they contain.
But let us begin somewhere and let us find out what each of them means. The first Mahavakya gives an objective definition of truth. It declares that the consciousness, the spiritual core that makes one's personality layers dynamic and active, is the consciousness that pulsates in all beings and pervades everywhere. The second Mahavakya is addressed by a master to a disciple after having defined that Brahman is consciousness. He declares the greatest truth, that thou art. O disciple, that Brahman, which is nothing but consciousness, is not yonder in the clouds to be achieved as a posthumous reward, but it is right here and now to be experienced as the ΑΤΜΑΝ within your own self. So these two Mahavakyas are exceedingly important, and it is talking about the ΑΤΜΑN. After hearing the definition of Brahman and after having understood from the words of his master that he is, in essence, nothing other than the Brahman, the seeker retires to a quiet place, shut off from the worldly cares, to meditate upon the objective truth that self is consciousness. Ere long he realizes that the self is Brahman. Having decided for himself from his own personal solitary and tranquil meditation that this ΑΤΜΑN is Brahman, the student comes back to the master and to the looks of inquiry of the master, answers with the cheer that beams out of his limpid eyes of peace and serenity that he had intimately experienced the truth and he is living with the constant awareness of the truth I am. This all requires a little bit of explanation more. So first of all, in the four Mahavakyas which we have read and heard, Prajnanam Brahma, Tattvam Asi, Ayam Atma Brahma, Aham Brahma Asmi. This Brahma should not be confused with Brahma as the creator. Most of us know that Lord Brahma is the creator of all creation. Here the Brahma is the Brahman, which is the consciousness, that Om, the truth, the reality, the ultimate knowledge. This is called Brahman.
It's a neuter gender.
It's of course a neuter gender. In the first Mahavakya, it has been declared by the Vedas that Prajnanam Brahma, that consciousness, the Atma that is within us is Brahman. Full stop. Then what happens in the second Mahavakya? Now this is between the Guru and the Shishya, from the teacher to a student, where the teacher, after having declared that the Veda says such a statement, that consciousness is Brahman, that time the teacher explains to the student that thou art. That means tat tvam asi. So that consciousness or that Atma or that Brahman which is spoken about by the Vedas is actually you. Now the student gets that knowledge from the master, but he has to sit and think about it. So he sits in meditation in solitary state, not confinement, but in a solitary state by himself, where he's not disturbed by anyone or anything, and he ponders, thinks about it to that extent where he realizes that the self is consciousness, the self is Brahman. So we have already understood from gross to subtle. So these things are exceedingly subtle, which have to be experienced. And the way to experience is something which you have to sit, meditate upon, think about in your mind, in your intellect, and keep rising or raising your consciousness to that level. And when this student, having experienced that yes, the rest is all the covering on me, but I am actually that Atman, that Brahman, he comes back to his teacher with those, you know what happens when you have experienced something with that happiness, that knowledge is within you, it shows in your face, on your face, in your eyes. And the teacher who's inquiringly looking at his student to see whether the student has absolutely understood what the master has said. And in his eyes, it sparkles the knowledge that, yes, I have experienced it. And so it is the truth which I have experienced. And that is time he says, I am Brahman. Thus, in the first two Mahavakyas, we find the definition of truth and the relationship between truth and man. The other two gives us the assurance that truth is realized not partially but totally. Let us understand this clearly further. Philosophy therefore explains the mysteries of man and the universe. It points out the unseen string that holds together the heterogeneous phenomena. It makes man understand what he is now and what he should really be. It gives him the key to open the kingdom of heaven that lies within. Philosophy bridges the gulf between man and God through the experience. We are all now familiar with the experiencer, the experience, and the experiencing. So this is what it means. Philosophy transcends the experiencer to the experiencing, and it finally gives him that liberation and tells him that he is that consciousness and the truth is revealed to him. However, philosophy is only a view of life, while religion is the way of life. Philosophy without religion is tantamount to an utopian myth. Religion divorced from philosophy becomes a bundle of superstitions. However, we do live in this world. Our temporary reality is the world around us, and we have to live as per the rules of this world, which we see a world of perceptions, the world of creation. So, what is explained over here that philosophy and religion have to go together. If we just talk about all of this philosophy and yes, this has to happen, it may sound like an utopian myth. What is a utopian myth? Something that is so perfect, it is unreal because you will never get there to that state. Or it is just the whole world should be an absolutely incredibly beautiful, perfect place. Each human being should be perfect to its core. This is utopia. In reality, it is not like that. No? And religion, what is religion? That religion, when it is not understood by the philosophy which is behind the religion, it just becomes a superstition. Just following rituals without having any understanding, without knowing what you are doing. Obviously, you are going to run away from something like that. So, religion is the science of self-purification. It is a means to an end. Religion, as is manifest from the derivation of the term, re, back, and ligare, to bind, is that which binds one back to the original or fountainhead. Therefore, by understanding the word religion, we can come to the conclusion that any technique by which man regains his original glory is religion. Let me explain a little better in a little simpler manner. Religare or religare, my pronunciation may not be correct because it is a Latin word. It is divided into this two, which Gurudev has very nicely showed us. That the word as we say, reverse or retaliate, all of these words, the part comes with the meaning back. And ligare means to bind. So religion comes from this word, religare of Latin. It means something that binds us to what was original or behind, right on the back. That means right at the root, what is original. So that is what religion means. That religion is that philosophy or that doing which binds us to our origin. Religion is therefore not mere ritual, though rites play an important role in the religious scheme of mental integration and self-purification. A man whose mind and intellect are well integrated will, by practicing various religious techniques, seek ere long the identity with the self, the truth. This merger of the little self with the real self, āTMAN, is indeed the goal of religion. Today, I need 5 more minutes from all of you, so kindly grant me that. I would like to finish this topic over here. The word yoga comes from the root yuj or join. So, yoga means the joining of the ego to the supreme self. While the final merger is the fulfillment of yoga, even the techniques which promote one's progress towards the realization of the supreme are called yoga. Thus, there are in Hinduism 4 paths to reach the ultimate goal. They are Bhakti Yoga, the path of devotion, Jnana Yoga, the path of knowledge, Karma Yoga, the path of action, and Hatha Yoga, the path of mysticism. Even though the techniques are different, the goal reached by all these paths is one and the same. And the main scientific theory in these techniques is based upon mental integration and self-purification. Even in the rules of life laid down for the practitioner, thus there is uniformity, and yet there are many paths given for us to accommodate the different temperaments and types of individuals. So different people have been given the choice to choose according to their liking and inclination, and all of them lead to just the one truth which is there. We will see about it in better detail tomorrow when all of you join me once again on this path of knowledge and the truth. Let us end our session with prayers today.
Om Asito ma Satgamaya Tamaso ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Mrutam Gamaya. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Hari Om.
Hare Krishna.